I'm going to run through everything I carried on the 780-kilometre Camino francés from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago de Compostela. This will be relevant for anyone walking any Camino route. Hi, I'm Jez, and in May 2025 I walked the Camino francés with my wife. We did it in 29 days, walking an average of 27 kilometres a day. You can see that video up here. We also carried on to Finisterre, and in a separate trip have walked the Camino Gran Canaria. Our trip was an albergue-based trip. My total base weight was just under 5 kilos before food and water, all packed into a 20-litre backpack. This is a breakdown of that kit. First up, we carried all our own kit every day. We didn't use kit transfer services, but this video will still be relevant to you even if you only plan on carrying a day pack each day and using baggage transfer companies. More about that later. I'm going to talk to you about the following: gear philosophy, why we went light, the backpack, sleep system, clothing, footwear, sun protection, electronics, toiletries, money and documents, apps and guides, what I would change or leave behind, and baggage transfer services. There are chapters in the description below, so if you're just interested in a certain topic and don't want to watch this whole amazing video, click on the link down there. There's also a link to my full kit list with weights for those that like to see it in a spreadsheet format. It doesn't matter if you're planning to walk 5 days or 40 days. Everyone is unique, but this will be a good base to start your own kit planning. There is no right or wrong answer. Decide what works for you. Oh, and if you have any questions, just drop a comment below. Without further ado, gear philosophy. Our philosophy was simple: to keep our packs as light as possible. I do a lot of camping, trekking and running, so this meant I already had a solid foundation of lightweight kit and walking gear to pull from. On the Camino, you're never more than a few hours from a cafe or pharmacy. You don't need to pack the just in case. Don't carry your fear. You just need the basic gear that works every day. Backpack. I used a running style pack. It sits high and doesn't have a frame or much padding, but for carrying 5 kilos, it is more than comfortable. It has vest style straps, no waist belt, but the shoulder strap pockets mean I have my water and essentials where I need them and not buried in the bag. My wife used a slightly larger pack. A women's specific Montane Trailblazer. It's 24 litres, but her kit also weighed about 5 kilos before food and water. It's better for someone who prefers the weight to sit slightly lower or doesn't like the snug feeling of the vest on their chest. If your pack is light, you may not need to support the weight on your hips. Inside, I use a waterproof liner. This one is homemade, made of ripstop nylon with tape seams. It keeps the rain and dirt out. A liner inside your pack is the best way to ensure your sleeping bag and rest of your kit stays dry. It weighs 83 grams. It worked. Okay, we arrived at albergue just before the rain started, but you get the idea. I'm not a fan of pack covers, and I certainly wouldn't rely on one. In high winds, they act like a sail, and they still allow water to run down your back and seep into the bottom of your bag. Knowing your clothes and sleeping kit are going to be dry is a massive moral booster after a long, rainy day on the Camino. If you're not sure what size backpack to buy, don't start with it. Sort the rest of your kit first, then borrow a relevant size backpack from a friend and see if everything actually fits. But don't forget to leave space for food, water, and anything else you might buy along the way. Trekking poles. Many walkers consider trekking poles essential, but for us, it was a personal choice to leave them behind. We prefer the freedom of having our hands free, and since we were travelling with carry-on luggage only, bringing poles wasn't really an option anyway, as most airlines don't allow trekking poles in cabin baggage, and we wanted to avoid the cost of checking in a bag just for them. With a pack weight of only 5 kilos, the extra stability wasn't a priority for the setup. That said, many pilgrims find poles especially helpful to reduce impact on the knees, particularly in long descents, where they can take some of the strain off the joints and provide added support. If you're on the fence, don't worry. Most of the larger towns are well stocked for pilgrims who decide they need them later, or for those who manage to lose them somewhere along the Camino. Sleep system. When you choose a sleep system, one of the main decisions is down versus synthetic insulation. Down is lighter, more compressible, and offers excellent warmth to weight ratio, which makes it ideal if you're trying to keep your pack size and weight to a minimum. Synthetic insulation, on the other hand, tends to handle damp conditions better and often less expensive, but it usually packs larger and weighs a bit more for the same warmth. For our setup, keeping things ultra light and compact was a priority, which is why we opted for down. These 2 sleeping bags, for example, have the same comfort rating, but one is down and packs down smaller. And it's also a lot more compressible. I took my homemade down quilt. It's like a sleeping bag, but without a back or hood and packs down really small. It has a comfort rating of 13 to 15 degrees C, 55 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. The idea behind it, no pun intended, is that the mattress provides the insulation on your back and the quilt on the top and the sides, saving weight and bulk. In April and May, albergues aren't the Arctic, but they can be drafty. This paired with a silk liner will take the comfort rating down to about 10 to 13 degrees or 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. I also carried a homemade pillowcase, big enough for the typical French and Spanish pillow sizes. As a Brit, European pillow sizes were definitely intriguing. My wife used my other slightly heavier and warmer homemade down quilt, equivalent to a comfort rating of 10 degrees, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, this was paired with a sheet liner that could be used by itself on warmer nights. We also carried earplugs. I never used them on one occasion, my wife used hers every night. That seems to point to me as a snorer, but she doesn't wear them at home. A disposable top sheet and pillowcase, and sometimes a cotton one, were always provided, which added a small layer of assurance, although the blankets available in albergues may not be washed very often and used by a steady stream of pilgrims. For that reason, we prefer to rely on our own sleep system and liners rather than placing blankets directly against our skin. It's not that they look dirty, just that the turnover of guests each day, you can't really know how frequently they're laundered. Bed bugs. We didn't see or hear of anyone having any problems during our time on the Camino. That said, they're always a topic of conversation amongst pilgrims. We did a quick mattress check when we arrived. In reality, it never became an issue for us, and it certainly wasn't something that affected our sleep or experience. Beds. We normally took a top and bottom bunk. My wife very kindly took the top bunk as I was more prone to needing to get up to pee in the night. Being in the same bunk set always meant we were less likely to disturb others when we left early. We could organise ourselves quickly in our own little space rather than moving around different parts of the room in the dark. It's worth being considerate with bunks. Not everyone can easily climb to a top bunk, and it's good etiquette not to automatically claim the bottom one every time. Alternating where you can, or offering the lower bunk to someone who clearly needs it more, goes a long way in shared dorms. Everyday walking clothing. When it comes to clothing, we used a wash one, wear one system, so you need gear that actually dries. I wore the same clothes every day and washed them almost every afternoon in the albergue. You might only get a few hours of sun, or a spot on a drafty indoor rack to dry clothes, and cotton is a nightmare. Once it's wet, it stays wet. We stick to synthetics and merino because they wick, sweat and dry fast. My clothes were usually dry before bed, so I put them on to sleep in. That way, when we wake up in the morning, I could just stuff my sleeping bag and walk out the door instead of stuffing damp, heavy clothes into my pack. Merino wool is your friend, or at least it will help you make friends, as it tends not to smell too much after a long, hard, sweaty day. It's also expensive, but for European folks, one of the few actual recommendations I will make is the Sport Pursuit website and the Isobar brand. A lightweight, long sleeve merino top costs £35, and I also picked up a couple of 100% merino wool t-shirts for £30 each. These are amazing and now a staple in my trekking and travelling kit. So this is my daily walking clothes. A merino Isobar long sleeve base layer and a Rab wind shirt. This was the most used layer for the first hour every morning. A pair of trekking shorts. These are really old, I've had them about 30 years. Decathlon wicking boxer shorts and a thin pair of merino wool blend running socks. This may go against what a lot of people think. You need padding and protection. Yes, but a good fitting and broken in shoe should mean you don't have to wear thick, heavy, sweaty socks, but that's something you will need to experiment with yourself. I'm a trail runner, so my feet live in a constant state of distress. All the kit inside my backpack was placed in individual stuff sacks to keep things organised. It makes life easier when you can't find what you're looking for without emptying the entire bag into the dorm floor. They're also far better than plastic bags, which somehow produce that loud rustling noise at 5 AM, exactly when everyone else is still asleep. So to add to my daily walking kit, I would have a sun hat, a couple of different varieties, and my sunglasses. Spare clothes. Once we'd stopped walking and I had showered, I would change into my other set of clothes, mostly wicking clothes, which would also dry quicker than cotton and could double up as a second walking set. Although it's a wash one, wear one system, I also carried extra clothes for the 2 weeks holiday in Spain and Portugal we had planned after the Camino. But these stayed clean and unused in my bag. Remember, it's not a fashion parade. So this is what I had. 2 merino t-shirts, I only used one. 2 pairs of socks, another thin running pair and a thick pair, but I didn't actually end up using those. 2 pairs of wicking boxer shorts, again, I only ever used one. A lightweight fleece from Decathlon, useful for evenings when the temperature drops. Function over style, but warm and lightweight. And an extra pair of shorts. The most important part of the evening was getting my feet out of the shoes and letting them breathe. Decathlon pool sandals, extremely light, they can be used in the shower, easy dried off, no webbing or straps to get wet, and a lot more convenient than flip-flops, which can't easily be worn with socks. These were amazing, and now my go-to footwear around the house at home. Another pair of trekking shorts. I didn't actually take any trousers. I feel most comfortable in shorts, so on the cold mornings, I would use my waterproof trousers. The Decathlon Everdick Trail Running, lightweight, breathable, well-fitting, very compact. Little zip down the side means you can get them on and off over your shoes. A lightweight sub 200 gram running waterproof shell, the Montane Minimus Ultra Stretch Jacket. It kept the rain out, was breathable and packs down small. Expect a regular mid-range hiking waterproof jacket to weigh about twice as much, at about 350 to 450 grams. Mine is not designed for heavy abrasion or overgrown trails, but lightweight and packable. I only used it on a few occasions, but if I just needed some wind protection, I would again use my Rab wind shirt. Again, a lightweight, no frills wind shirt weighing about 100 grams. Remember, you may be washing your clothes and hanging them out to dry frequently and sharing a washing machine with other pilgrims. Dark coloured clothes stand the test of time better than whites. Although merino wool says it should be washed in non-biological wool-safe detergent and shouldn't be tumble dried, you may not care if you want clean, dry clothes in the morning. Some people carry a few safety pins to attach drying socks to the outside of their backpack, but we never needed to do that. Footwear. These are trail runners, 660 grams a pair. Scott Supertrack Ultra RC. I didn't wear boots. The Camino Frances is mostly hard-packed tracks and tarmac. Boots are heavy, stiff, and in my opinion unnecessary. Especially if you're carrying a light pack, you don't need ankle support, but you do need cushioning. Trail runners provide the cushioning I needed for 30 kilometers a day without the blisters. I thought these shoes were particularly amazing, but I can't recommend Scott shoes as a brand in general, as many other pairs I've had in the past have had issues with the uppers. Whatever footwear you go for, practice walking in them, with the socks you'll use on the Camino. Break them in properly, wear them around the house for a week, and then outside on progressively longer walks. Wear what you're used to. 780 kilometers is a very long experiment for a new style of footwear. On a day-to-day basis, your feet fluctuate constantly. In the morning, they're at the smallest, and your shoes might even feel a bit loose. By the afternoon, after 25 kilometers of pounding the gravel, they'll hit their maximum size. Now, I've heard plenty of people say you have to size up for the Camino, but I really don't buy into that. A shoe that's half a size too big is just a shoe that doesn't fit. You need the right size for your feet based on the socks you're actually going to be wearing. The best way to get this right is to buy your shoes in the afternoon, after you've been on your feet all day, so you're fitting them at their largest. While on shoes, let's talk about feet and socks. Before the Camino, I watched so many videos claiming you have to have merino wool for blister prevention. I'd never heard of it before, and it's pretty pricey. We decided to stick to micropore tape at about £1 a roll. It's what I've always used for trail running, and honestly, it worked perfectly for us. If you're getting in some good training walks and using the kit you intend to take on the Camino, you'll have a good idea if your feet are going to need some help. The best method is one you've already tested, and this is tried, tested, and worked for me and my wife. If you have a hot spot from training, then you should tape it before you start walking for the day. Once a blister has formed, you're managing injury. If you tape early, you're preventing one. Socks. Again, cotton is the enemy because it doesn't wick moisture once it's wet. It stays wet, which softens your skins and leads straight to blisters. Synthetic or merino wool is best. Synthetics are great. They don't absorb moisture. They move it away from the skin and dry fast. But merino is the real winner. It sounds impossible, but merino wool stays dry to the touch even when it's technically holding moisture. The core of the fibre pulls the sweat inside, leaving the surface dry against your foot. Plus, unlike synthetic materials, merino is naturally antibacterial, so it won't smell after a long day. Whether you go for synthetic or wool, just make sure there is zero cotton in the mix. Sun protection, a vital category for Spain. It's not a fashion choice, but it kept the sun off my neck and is a lightweight version. It's a Tilly ultralight sun hat. Not my preferred style, but it grew on me, not literally like mould, even though I didn't wash it, but it was really comfortable and practical. Some might choose a sun hat with a wide brim in the front, but a flat or short brim in the back to stop it hitting the top of the pack every time you look up. But if you have a small pack, that won't happen anyway. A baseball cap for when full-on sun protection isn't needed. 2 hats was a bit overkill, but still fitted in my pack. Sunglasses, big lens for keeping the sun out. These are polarized and are good for cutting down on the glare. I also used a bandana, cut in half to save weight, and that was great for neck protection. Then sun cream, factor 30+, although to be honest, I didn't have much bare skin on show. Long sleeve and decent coverage did most of the work. Clothing is often better protection than constantly reapplying sun cream. And don't forget a lip salve. Sun and wind will dry them out quicker than you think. Filming equipment and electronics. I recorded the whole trip. Hopefully you've enjoyed my video. If not, you can see it here. This added some specific weight that most people won't take. I took a GoPro Hero 8 with a selfie stick. I've actually sold it and purchased a different camera, but it was similar in size and weight to the new one. Along with that, spare batteries and a battery charger, a SanDisk 500GB SSD for backing up footage, and some micro SD cards for the action camera to ensure I never ran out of space. When I returned home, I had about 5 hours of footage. And an Anker 10 mAh power bank for recharging my phone and action camera. I only used it once, but could have easily got away without it. If you have a phone with an all-day battery, you probably won't need one. All this kit added about ½ kilo, so you will save that if you're just looking at taking something like a cell phone to record your memories. And of course, with a cell phone, remember to clear enough memory space before you leave. A 4-port USB charger. We never had problems finding outlets in the albergue, and we use this with 2 USB cables for charging all my electronics. A 2-meter cable meant that I didn't have to sit on the floor right next to the outlet. My wife carried a smaller 2-port charger as a backup, but again, we never used it. A small USB rechargeable head torch. This had a red light that made it useful for early morning dormitory departures without shining bright lights in sleepy faces. My wife used it most of the morning on the Camino as we headed out before sunrise. I just walked behind her, following her shadow, so we only needed one between us. And of course we had our cell phones which have torches on them as well. Money, documents and passports. I kept these in a dedicated travel pouch, so I carried them on my body at all times while relaxing in the afternoon and around town, but stowed it in my backpack when I was carrying it during the day. Passport is needed for check-in at albergues, so keep it handy. Pilgrim passport, your credential, probably the most important document after your actual passport. This is a document you get stamped every day to prove that you've walked the distance. We purchased this for €2 in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port at the start of the Camino. It's worth mentioning that you need this to get into the albergues in the first place. It's your key to get a bed, not just a souvenir. Credit or debit card, I took 2, one for daily use and a backup. Both were linked to my banking app, so I kept the spare frozen. I stored it separately from my main wallet and could unfreeze it if I needed it. Most albergues and shops accept credit and debit card. Remember to select euros if you have a choice of currency when purchasing to avoid excessive rate markups and hidden bank fees. Also carry a supply of cash for small out-of-the-way places, vending machines and for emergency. Then we have my reading glasses. The pouch stay with me at all times. It's lightweight and minimal case. Health card and insurance documents. Our accommodation Bible. We were given this at the Camino office when we purchased our Pilgrim passport, but a guidebook or Camino app will also suffice. Toiletries Medical, nothing too special here, just basically small quantities of everything we needed in refillable bottles. The only thing I actually needed to refill was the shampoo. It was a small bottle and lasted for about a week. We purchased a bottle of shampoo once, filled up our bottles and left the rest for others to use. Other times we would refill it from bottles that others had left behind. Nail clippers, and don't forget to use them before you go. My wife and I shared a small toothpaste between us and brushed our teeth at least once a day. I used a shaving oil. It's very, very small. This one was half used. It's lighter and smaller than shaving foam. And a travel-sized deodorant, more to freshen up than doing miracles. This surprisingly lasted for the full Camino. First aid kit, the only thing I used was a micropore for small blisters forming on my little toes. I caught them early so it never caused problems. Bought a couple of reinforcing pads for the heels of shoes. My wife used one, also consider adding something like paracetamol. In terms of washing our clothes, we started off with some Sea to Summit soap leaves to do it by hand. Very small but didn't go very far, about 1 leaf per sock. And by the end we were using shampoo to wash our clothes. Wherever there is a washing machine, there's usually soap provided or available to buy. Many albergues also have brushes which can be used to clean your shoes. Clothes pegs. After much searching, we found IKEA sold the smallest ones we could find. We each took 4 and used them most days to hang out our wet washing. I had a tiny microfiber towel that I use more as a face cloth, and a Life Venture microfiber towel. They aren't the most absorbent, but they get the job done. Easy to wash, quick drying, and don't smell. If you've never used one before, note that drying yourself with this type of towel is a bit more about patting yourself down than typical rubbing motion you're used to with cotton. It's definitely worth testing at home before the Camino. Just get the technique down and make sure you're comfortable with how it feels. And of course, any personal medication, make sure you bring enough for your complete journey and consider bringing a prescription from home to make it easier if you need more. A supply of toilet paper and a plastic bag to keep it dry. You never know when nature calls, and even some cafe bathrooms may run out on occasions. When heading to the shower each day, I will put my toiletries in a bag along with my towel, clean clothes and valuables. I could hang it on the back of the door where it keeps everything dried while I showered. A small alcohol hand sanitizer, brought most of it home with me. Other stuff. If I haven't mentioned it already, it will be in this section. A watch. It's nice not to have to reach for your phone every time you want to know what time it is. But in reality, you shouldn't worry about the time. You'll arrive when you get there. Stainless steel pan, 600 millilitres, and a knife, fork and spoon. The latter were purchased in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France, as you're not even permitted plastic knives on planes. Albergue kitchens are often missing equipment. Having our own meant we could always cook for ourselves. I didn't have to use it many times, but nothing beats a bowl of cereals while out on the Camino. 2 500 milliliter plastic drinks bottles, lighter than technical water bottles, disposable and easily replaceable. Earphones to listen to music or audiobooks, you have plenty of time for that. A scallop shell. We brought our scallop shell from the beach near home to carry a bit of home with us. The shell's lines represent the various paths pilgrims take, all converging at one point in Santiago. It's a universal symbol of the Camino. Hanging it on your pack identifies you as a pilgrim and is usually what invites the first buen camino from locals and other walkers you meet. A bag to put food in. A stone. Many people carry a small stone or rock from home to leave at the Cruz del Ferro. It's a symbol of carrying it, not the burden, so take a small one. And finally, a pen. Food and water. There are plenty of water fountains and cafes along the Camino, so the 2 500 milliliter plastic drinks bottles were enough. And there was plenty of spare space in my rucksack or strapped outside for the food we need to carry on a daily basis. Supermarkets are common in the larger towns and many small villages have small convenience stores. We would also mark them on our map. You can generally drink from the water fountain taps along the way. Most are marked as agua potable, meaning the water is safe for consumption. If you see the sign that says agua no potable, it's untreated, so best to steer clear. There are plenty along the route, and along with cafes, negate the need to take a water filter. Internet. There is Wi-Fi in every albergue, although not always signal in your dorm. And if you have a roaming plan or eSIM, you're almost always connected. We each had about 3 gigabytes of data from our roaming plan as part of our pay-as-you-go plan from the UK and didn't need to pay for anything else on top of that. Apps and guides. Physical guidebooks are heavy. Ebooks are weightless, although not so easy to flick through the pages. I'm not a fanatical reader, but my wife read a guidebook before we set off and didn't bother with one during the Camino. There are many Camino apps you can download to your phone that have the routes, history, maps and accommodation. I downloaded a couple, but we didn't really use them. We had our accommodation Bible. From the Camino office in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and we used this almost exclusively. What we did find very useful was the Organic Maps phone app, an offline maps app. We uploaded a GPX route we found online along with all the variations, so always had the route on our phone and could easily mark on our albergues and other points like supermarkets that we researched the day before. It was also very good for working out the distance to the next cafe or albergue. In reality, route finding isn't a problem, although it can be helpful early morning in the dark and when you arrive at a route variation. While still on apps, consider a subscription to an ebook service like Audible. Other apps you might find useful would be a translation app like Google Translate. I assume you speak English if you're watching this video. If not, leave a comment below to say where you're from. English is widely spoken, but learning a few simple words in Spanish can go a long way. Budget. This is such a personal thing. We were on a tight budget, but excluding flights, insurance, our in-country costs from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago and on to Finisterre were under €1,000 for the 32 days. Saying that, we didn't have many pilgrim menus. We very much self-catered, although my wife did enjoy at least one coffee a day at a cafe along the Camino. My luxury item, not very exciting, a pair of hair clippers. Nothing worse than long hair stopping you seeing the sights of the Camino. An AliExpress purchase for £5, just 126 grams. Nothing worse than trying to explain to a foreign barber what style you want. I cut my own hair at home anyway. Can you tell? There wasn't anything I felt I needed but didn't bring. On the contrary, I had too much stuff, but that was down to carrying extra clothes for 2 weeks holiday after the Camino. I had 2 pairs of sunglasses and only needed one, and my battery pack wasn't really needed either. It's nice to rely on the basics and concentrate on the experience around you rather than the material possessions in your backpack. Anything you forget, you should be able to purchase somewhere on the Camino. Kit transfers. For those that can't or don't want to carry their kit all day, every day, there are options. But first you need a small, comfortable day pack for carrying what you need while you walk each day. Everything else can go in a hodl and be picked up and transferred to your next albergue by one of the many bag transfer companies. The main drawback with this is that you need to nominate where you want it to be taken. So you need to pre-book albergues in advance so you're committed even if you get tired or drink too much coffee or wine at lunchtime. Each morning you fill out a form, pop the money in the envelope and leave it with a pack to be picked up. You will need to advise the company that they need to pick up your bag, but this can be done via WhatsApp, a simple message, so no Spanish needed. Final thoughts. My base weight was just under 5 kilos. I could have removed half a kilo if I wasn't filming as I went. The Camino is a long walk, not a survival expedition. If your pack is small and light, you focus on the Camino and the people, not the straps digging into your shoulders. This was my kit and it got me 780 kilometers to Santiago. I hope you find this video and information useful. Buen Camino. And if you haven't already watched our Camino video, click here now.